Welcome to the 7th, I think, citation tutorial. In the last video I realized that we did not talk about the autopilot yet, but I was already using it in the video, so I'll do that now. I'm sitting here with Hotel Charlie in Braunschweig, Echo Delta Victor Echo, and I planned a small flight to showcase all the autopilot features. So we're here in Wolfsburg. We're going to depart runway 26 VFR via the Whiskey route, so we'll go straight ahead to Whiskey 2 and then follow the highway to Whiskey 1 at a maximum of 2,000 feet. After that, we will climb to about 8,500 feet of flight level 85 and track inbound the hailing and view, our Hotel Lima Zulu right here. We'll fly outbound in a 45-degree angle of our inbound course, talk about that more later. Fly a right-hand turn and then come back on the ILS, runway 26 for a practice approach. There is one thing to consider, which I'll show on a little nav map. We are right here, Echo Delta Victor Echo. Here is the airspace of Hanover, so I've drawn a 19 nautical mile range ring here around the Hotel Lima Zulu VR, and this will keep us out of the Hanover airspace for sure. So when departing here and leaving the Braunschweig airspace, we want to make sure that we stay within that 19-mile radius. Okay, now to the approach in Braunschweig. This is the ILS Yankee approach, which uses the sailing in VOR as initial approach fix. So we're going to use that one. So from Halingen we have this holding right here with a 204 inbound heading. And that is what I have set. Well, let's actually go inside the plane here and have a look. I have set up two things. I have set the ILS on nav 1 right here to 60 degrees, which you can see right here. That's ILS 111.1. That is set nav 1. And for nav 2, I have set the hailing and view are 117.3, so this one right here, on a course of 204. 204 is the inbound course to this holding right here, and we're going to fly the reciprocal. We're going to fly the 024 using the back course function of the autopilot, and then turn inbound again on the 204. The ILS has a very low approach. The top of descent is very close to the runway, so it's only at 5 dB, and we are 1,800 feet MSL, which is about 1,500 feet AGL. We have a decision height of 200 feet, and the go-round procedure is as follows. We climb straight ahead to 14 DME Hotel Lima Zulu, then turn right heading 357, crossing the radio 271 Hotel Lima Zulu, then turning right to intercept and follow the radial 279 Hotel Lima Zulu to the VOR, climbing to 4,000, and maximum speed until inbound is 210 knots. So we also have our, that's actually the other way around, our VOR is at nav 2, so we want to have this like this. We have the VOR showing here, so we can actually see the radio we're on. Okay, that is the approach briefed. I'd say we have an MSA of 3,900, that's also nice to keep in mind. And yeah, that is the flight brief. So before we get this plane fired up, let me quickly show you the autopilot controls, because I will not be able to do so during the flight. So we have two areas of controls for the autopilot, basically. We have this one right here over the PFD, which is basically our mode control panel. We have the different modes we can select. We have heading mode, we have nav mode, we have approach mode, back course mode, altitude hold mode, vertical speed mode, and indicated airspeed mode. We also have an indicator right here, which shows us if either the autopilot or the yaw damper is off, or in our case right here, both are turned off. That's a good thing. If you press the autopilot disconnect, you'll see this light up and confirm that the autopilot is indeed off. Right now you can see autopilot is in roll mode, meaning it will just basically keep our current attitude. And later, when we go to the takeoff go around mode, it will go to HDH, meaning heading hold mode, which will hold the current heading. Yeah. How do we control things on the autopilot right now? We have this panel right here. I'll just bring it up as a 2D panel, so we can see both at the same time. We can control the course here, the altitude selected in the altitude window, so the course being this yellow thing right here. Altitude being this window right here, so we can set an altitude. I've already set our 8,500, and we can select our heading. Our heading bar obviously should be turned to 260 for departure. I have keys bound for all of these buttons, so I'm going to use them using my keyboard, not using this pop-up. We have the pitch wheel right here, which we can use if we select either a vertical speed or an indicate airspeed. We can use that pitching up and down in order to manipulate that value for vertical speed and indicated speed. These are for the autopilot and the yaw damper. And we have the bank limit, which will basically limit our bank rate to half of its normal rate. We will also demonstrate that. We will also have this turn button, which I honestly never used. It's just important to remember that this is in the center position. If this is off, you will not be able to engage the autopilot. Sorry, if this is not centered, you will not be able to engage the autopilot. So just click it with this hand cursor right here to center it. This is one thing I always make sure during my pre-flight checks. That's it for the autopilot, and I'll see you at the threshold. So we're at the threshold and the takeoff. Before takeoff checklist down to line complete. Let's quickly brief the takeoff. We are at runway 26. At ground track, there's going to be a visual departure, runway 26, via the Whiskey route. VR is going to be 100 knots. V2 is 108. We only have VR bugged right here. So flight rotation will be 118. VR for the return will be 98 knots. And our V approach for the return is 105. That's set here. Maximum altitude during the approach until reaching Whiskey 2 will be 2,000 feet, so we'll level off initially at 2,000 and reduce our power to approximately 70% N1. Speaking of Whiskey 2 real quick, you can see, I don't have Whiskey 2 on here, hang on. Yeah, actually let me show you on Navigraph. Whiskey 2 right here, you can see we have this patch of, Whiskey 1, sorry. We have this patch of forest right here. So we're coming along this highway, and then there will be this big forest basically right to the left of the highway, and this is where our Whiskey 1 is. So this is where we can officially leave the frequency and have left the departure procedure. Yeah, so that's that. For any cautions or warning prior VR, we will abort the takeoff. After VR, we will continue to a safe altitude and then assess the situation. We can come back visual runway 26, or because we have 0 winds today, we could also come back 08. Weather preset, by the way, is the few clouds VFR preset. Okay, that's a takeoff brief. One quick word about the autopilot. I'm in go round mode, which you can get by clicking this button right here on the thrust levers. And in heading hold mode, you can see that the flight director commands a slight left turn right there. That could be problematic after takeoff. Like, sometimes it doesn't really want to hold the heading. And then I'll just briefly activate the heading mode and deactivate the heading mode again, then it should work. So if you see me do that, that's what I'm doing there. Also, before activating the autopilot, make sure the trim, make sure the aircraft is trimmed properly. I'm also going to check my, let's call them secondary trims right here, but they're looking good, so aileron and rudder. Make sure the aircraft is properly trimmed out, especially on the elevator, before you engage the autopilot, otherwise it will do weird things. Okay, so with that briefed, below the line. Pitot heat goes on. Anti-ISDI is not required today. Anti-collision lights go on. Landing and recog lights, we turn on the landing lights, we disengage the parking brake. Transponder goes to altitude reporting. Radars not implemented, the annunciator panel is considered. So let's go. The approach path is clear, the runway is clear. Then, let's go. Oops, that was me setting the flaps. So flaps back to 15 degrees there. That's rechecked, and let's go now. As we live. $60, cross-checked. Rotate. Positive rate. Gear up. And there's real 2 plus 10 flaps up. We trim up now. And you can see our autopilot right there is telling us to go to the right. We don't want that, obviously. We'll reduce power to 80 right now, coming up at 500 AGL. We'll quickly go to heading and deselect the heading again. That did not do much. Alright, it's getting better. Okay, so autopilot on. Plane's on autopilot now. We'll switch to heading mode now anyway. Alright, heading mode right there would have worked. The heading hold mode, I mean. At 2000, we're going to do a level off. We go to the right now, using the heading select of the autopilot to keep us to the right of the highway. Need to go a bit more right there. There's 2000 coming up. So we're going to altitude hold. There we go. Altitude hold set to 2000. We're going to reduce our N1 to 70% as to not go too fast on this departure procedure. And we're going to cross over to the other side of the highway there. And right here is where Whiskey 1 is. So you can see our autopilot modes right here. We are in heading and altitude hold mode right now. And also notice that our pre-selected altitude has been reselected to 2000, the one we captured. We can now change that to our goal of 8500. That will not do anything yet. But we will, it will capture that once we start climbing again. So let's turn west again now. That's Whiskey 1 right there. We are at 15 DME, Hotel Lima Zulu. So now after reaching Whiskey 1, let's set IAS mode. And let's just give it some more power so that the plane climbs. And let's go to a heading of 170, which should bring us, which will have us stay clear of the Hannover airspace. So 85% and 1 should be good for the climb. Having a look at our DME right there. That seems to be working out fine though. I'm going to turn on the virtual sunglasses. Okay, let's have a look at the clouds. Not many clouds in front of us right now, so that's fine. We can just continue climbing. We have an after takeoff checklist, so after takeoff climb, landing gears up, flaps are up, ignition can go off, temper set, engine synchronizer is off, your damper is on, together with the autopilot, passenger advisory switch will leave on today, anti-ice, de-ice still not required temperature wise, landing our recog lights, we'll bring that to recog, pressurization is checked, also not really affected today, oxygen control valve is still set to norm, and alternators will leave on standard. So that is that. That's the after takeoff checklist completed. So having looked outside the window, I'm looking for some visual clues that we are near the Sierra VRP. That should be here, right there. So we can soon turn inbound our VOR, or to an intercept heading at least. Let's go east first of all. Let's go 0990. See how that works out altitude wise. Our left engine is running a bit high. Yeah, cloud wise looks to be okay. We're now 19 miles away from the VOR. And we now want to go to an intercept heading and intercept the VOR using the back course function. So as you can see, we are on the 204 radial. We want to intercept the reciprocal. That's what we have the back course function for. Looking at this thing right here, we are showing, what is that, 235. We want to go to 204, so it's still some time until this thing becomes alive. So we can, first of all, track a little bit more towards the VOR before we actually, as this 500 to go, before we actually start going into a more suitable intercept heading. So flight level 85 coming up. There we go, leveling off. Let's reduce our speed to something like 75% and 1 maybe, or power I mean. Let's see where that puts us. City of Braunschweig below us. Cloud clearance looks okay. And you can see this will move more and more towards our 204 radial. So let's go to a more intercept friendly heading right now. Something like that maybe. And actually select the back course mode. You can see now the white BC, meaning this mode is armed, not yet active. Oh yeah, and one thing about the autopilot, I've completely forgot to even think about in my preparations. You can switch between the this single queue right here. Oh, BC is captured. Hang on. Backwards is captured. This autopilot is pretty slow as far as bank turns go. So it might not be able to capture this right now. It goes into a way too hard intercept angle, in my opinion. And depending on what it will do now, I'm already bringing the hang back around. Yeah, there's no way it's going to capture it. I'm going to help it by selecting heading mode again. So now it will go into a 30-degree bank. So be prepared to do this. Hope this will be fixed. But all the autopilot had to do is just stay on the angle I gave it. It did not. So yeah, we saved it there. Let's go back to back course, and now it will do a more reasonable intercept right there, I hope. Distance-wise, we are at 90 miles. Still some miles to go. That's fine. Okay, what I want to show you. Right here, we have the single queue mode active right now, right? And we can switch this to cross pointer by using this button right here. I'm personally more a fan of single queue, so I'm going to leave it like that, but if you like the cross pointer, you can switch that with this button right here. Okay, this seems to have captured nicely. Speed's 220, that's also looking good. One thing I forgot to mention when it was in IIS mode there earlier, it of course captured our current speed, and you could have adjusted the speed with the pitch dial right here. We did not do that because the current speed was sufficient. We just adjusted our rate of climb there by adding more power. Now we're getting a little bit off the VR right there. Hope it will correct for that. Yeah, it goes left again, but we're also quite close to it. So let's just swing the heading back around here, go to heading mode so that it doesn't get confused with the cone of confusion there. And once we are over the station, which we can see with this, for example, or with the from 2-pointer, which we can barely make out here. Once we've overflown the station, we'll go into a 45-degree angle to the left for a minute. So let's select the elapsed time right here in preparation for that. Wait for us to overfly the station. Which should happen any second now. Keep an eye on the from 2-pointer right here. This one's starting to swing over now. And the from 2-pointer just flipped, so let's go to a 45-degree angle right here and start timing and wait for a minute. While we do that, we have our descent checks. Defog systems are not required. Pressurization is already set. Anti-SDS don't require. Throttles as required, that's considered. Altimeters are set. Landing data, we'll have 98 for VREF, 105 for the approach. Landing and recog lights are still on recog, that's fine. So that is good. Let's also do the approach check as well added. Seatbelts, shown harnesses check. Avionics flight instruments, we are not yet set for the others, but that's okay. Radar altimeter is set to 100. Passenger advisory switch is still on. Passenger seats are checked. Crew briefings complete. Fuel transfer is off. 15 seconds to go. Engine synchronizer is off. The thrust attenuator switch is in auto. Anti-skid switch is on. 5 seconds. Landing lights are on. Well, the recog lights are. Announcer panel is clear. Skip that. Pressurization is set and flaps defer. That's 1 minute. Let's now go to a 150 heading. Oh yeah, before I do that, let's hit the half bank or the half bank button right there. And you'll see that the plane only goes to a 15-degree bank angle right now. Also, we want to descend. Let's descend to 3,000 feet. With vertical speed, so vertical speed mode, and now we are at 0 feet per minute. We can select that with the pitch wheel. So let's select 1,000. Now let's select 2,000 feet per minute. Bring power back to about 60. Speed will be increasing. We have less than 85% N2, so let's go speed brakes on to keep the speed under control. And let's try to keep clear of the clouds. I hope this half turn will kind of maneuver us around this guy. Doesn't really look like it. So let's figure out the good point. It might work out. Let's figure out the good point when to let's select full bank right now. So just disabling that. We'll go into a full bank. Don't want to turn too hard though, so let's go back to a half bank. This is fun. To avoid these clouds. Also having a look at our VOR, we are set to 204 and this is coming up pretty close, so let's be prepared. This is not the correct lateral cloud creams for VFR, by the way. I apologize. Let's go to the full bank angle right now. Be prepared to intervene there. Set nav mode. That nav mode is actually already captured. We have cell showing, by the way. Yeah, it doesn't work. This is not going to work. Let's go to heading mode. And turn up the plane there. 3,000 set, so 2,000 to go. We are inside the cloud now. I'm sorry, this is not proper VFR flying. And let's select nav again. We have 8 miles to go to the fix. 1,000 to go. Let's reduce the descent rate to 1,500. Let's bring the speed brakes up again. And now the only mode that we have not covered yet on the autopilot is the approach mode, and we'll come to that very soon. 3,000, let's further continue our descent. That was a bit too late. To 1,800. Or was it? Let's see if we'll do level up, it will do not. So, okay, it will continue descent to 1,800, which is our altitude for the ILS. Let's actually get the speed brakes out again. We're getting a bit too fast. We will continue the descent. We have 5 miles to the fix. That's 1,000 to go already. Descending was 1,500, that's fine. That's 3 miles to the fix. Let's go to heading mode now, and let's switch over to the ILS right here. And arm the approach. Both glide slope and approach are armed now. 1,800 coming up, speed brakes going up. Speeds below 200, flaps 1. Or flaps approach rather, flaps 15. We can give some more power. We're now 9 miles out from the ILS. So about 5 miles to TOD, or 4 miles. So try to get the intercept going first. Obviously, before we capture the glide slope. We can turn on the ignition for landing flaps we have, so our approach checklist is complete. For before landing we have ignition, landing gear, flaps, pressurization, autopilot, auto impact, speed brakes. Looking at 260 right there. Oh, this is not the ILS. This is the ILS. Yeah, ILS is not trying on here. So... $7.2 miles, we hope to capture that soon. Be prepared to help with the heading back. Yep, there we go. It's becoming alive. This is actually a decent turn right we have it there. But it will not be sufficient. Heading to go into even steeper turn rate. And back to approach mode, hoping that will capture. There's the runway in sight already. So let's go gear down. That was speed brake. Speed brake up again, gear down. That's slope ladder and glide slope captured just in time. And we can go flaps 35 now. Autopilot will follow the glide slope down now. It lost a bit track of that because I deployed flaps. And we are still not properly aligned with low ladder, that's coming in though. Speed-wise, we're looking good. We have 1000 AGL right now. 3 DME. Speed's still looking good, we can even reduce a little bit more. And coming through 500 AGL, I will disengage the autopilot and fly the rest manually. Keep an eye on the annunciator when I do that. So we have VREF plus 10 speed-wise right now, approximately. And there's a 500 NGL manual flight. Trimming up slightly. Reducing to VREF. That's a decision height. Continue, flying visual now. Actually we're quite fast though. So I thought to idle. And flaps ground. Let's try to make that turn off right there. Oh, that was close. Oh, nice. So we made the early turn off right here. But nevertheless, I'll see you once we have shut down the plane for a debrief. So that was an introductory flight showcasing the autopilot. As you saw, there were some areas where you have to pay attention, like the heading hold in the beginning of the flight, as well as capturing, localizers basically. Can be a bit tricky, but you can always help yourself with heading mode in both situations.